It's 6 o'clock, we'll start the meeting today. Today is October 18th at 6 o'clock, and we're meeting at the Addison Township offices, 1440 Rochester Road. If we could all stand for the pledge, please. Ed, your mission.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand up.
Dear Lord, guide us with your wisdom, guide the support and the audience. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Jacob Dewey.
Yeah, here.
Karen Gavin. Here. Linda Garrett. Yes. Edward Hill.
Here.
Lori Fisher. Here. Bennett. Yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Here. Okay, the announcements. Department reports available in my office at any time. Jamie or myself. Petitions.
No.
Okay, other business. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as written.
Support.
Any questions? Not hearing any, can I have roll call, please?
Karen Gavin. Yes. Jacob Dewey.
Yes.
Linda Garrett. Yes. Edward Hill.
Yes.
Lori Fisher. Yes. Bennett. Yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda.
Yes, on the consent agenda this time are the approval of the minutes for September, approval of the bills for September, and then appointment of Stephanie Wagner and Bill Carroll as park rangers for a 3-year term. Both of those are renewals.
I just would like to make one correction on the minutes. I think on the very last page it says in 1988 they had the fourth out. I think it's supposed to read the fourth out. Unless I have a different page, is that correct?
Yes, can you show me where tomorrow? What area?
It's the third line down on the last page of minutes.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have anything else? Motion, order.
I'll move to the consent agenda with the correction as stated.
I'll second.
Any further comments? If not, we will call back, please.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Edward Hill.
Yes.
Karen Gavin. Yes. Jacob Dewey.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett. Yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. And move on to item number 2, the common variant. We're going to talk about the engraving, the 6 benefits payment, and preliminary plan. Last month we did go through this, and we decided that we were going to go forward with the common variant. There's a few other things that we have to talk about here. Number 1 is, do we all concur to order the 6 benches? And we also have the option to engrave only one side of the common variant for a savings of $2,500. Proposed that we only engrave the one side with the pension that would all equal what, $175,640, is that correct?
I'm trying to do this.
Did you watch the television or no? I'm talking about the common variables, okay? You need a minute?
I've
This
got a
one's
question
done.
on that.
She's having trouble with the recorder.
Oh, never mind.
My phone's going, so I can continue.
You need a second?
I'm going to try another way. Go ahead, I have one recorder going.
You got a recorder going right now?
Yes.
Okay. I've got a question about the, did we vote for the benches last time?
No, it wasn't included in the motion. It was just for the 5 pound variance.
Because I looked at the benches, they have 2 pictures. One with the benches that they want to add, and then one with the standard bench in the photograph.
The benches weren't even listed on the price, so.
Well, they are now.
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
we're bringing that up now simply because I believe that we actually had some savings on the actual bid on the columbariums.
Yes,
We didn't realize.
she arranged, there was one bid, the line item, actually was a lot less than what was originally proposed. So last month, we thought we were gonna spend $180 and $710. So when she did the final bid, we noticed that line number, where is it? Line number 3 on her bid came down dramatically. So, and we also are thinking we only need one side engraved because the other side is really going to be the trees are going to see it. So we're going to be saving money by only doing one side. So we could actually throw in the benches and still be at 175 versus the amount we approved last month at 180. And then we have details that we have to take care of tonight as well. So we're looking for, as noted, we're looking for quite a few different ideas from the board. So the one, as Bruce said, was to approve the benches. And then we need the engraving. Do we want to do just the one side that's going to face the road, and what do we want on that?
If you understand, these are all sitting like this, so you're just seeing the ends of them.
Right.
So I agree that we really only need to engrave one end of the columbarium. The benches, the question I have on those, are those the metal benches or are those the granite benches? Granite cement benches.
Yeah, but do we see what the price of the wooden ones that are sitting in the picture? They've got to be a lot less than.
They are, but a lot of the wooden benches
Of course,
that are
they were out
actually
of time.
there are broken, and some of them don't last through the storms, and then some are taken away, so we have to chain them down.
I guess
So
you're
if we
right,
get
though.
something heavy, it'll look much better without chains attached
And in
to it.
10 years, it'll probably look just as black. We just bought it, and
Yes.
those wooden ones will be all black.
Yes.
Okay, because the price is not that much different from the wood versus these. When we buy 6 at one time.
I looked at it and I pictured that, you know, if somebody wanted to spend some time there, they'd be standing. Whereas now, they actually would have a nice bench to sit there if they wanted to reflect on something or whatever. And it would also make it, I think, look a lot nicer. And those are permanent benches, you know. I went out to the cemetery this week for a service. And a lot of the benches are decaying, they're rusting, they don't last that long. But where these, if you notice, I think they're the same material that the columbariums are, and I think they would last forever. But just something that we should think about. We can go through these one by one. What about the engraving? Does anybody have any ideas what they'd like on the ends? Yes.
Pauline and I kind of talked a little bit about it because there's some flexibility in the different things that we can choose. Being that it's a cemetery though, like I said, I wasn't feeling very whimsical. I actually prefer to stay very traditional, and I would like something like, you know, Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, and then Bruce loves the old English style numbering. I think this is a perfect place to put those, like a Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4.
She gave some examples that some people might include.
Absolutely.
Some of them have trees, and then they have a picture of a tree or a picture of a leaf, which would be fitting because Drainer Road is on a natural beauty road, the longest natural beauty road in Oakland County, and 3 of the roads in the cemetery are actually named after trees. So I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. The actual columbariums are very, how would you say, geometric. So to go with an old type style of the numbering would actually look good too. So there's some different ways we can go. We could also just label them columbarium number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we could center the middle one, let's say Lakeville Cemetery, and keep the rest just with the numbers. We could add Lakeville Cemetery in the center and then put Addison Township off to the side. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can go, but we didn't even discuss this last month, and we really need to decide what we might like to see.
Throwing a little humor in here.
too, since we have 5 horses, we could use the Arabian horses' names.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I just like Lori's idea, just Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, 1.
Yeah, and we do have to have, yeah, like you say, mark, so people do know where they're supposed to go, you know, and
And
so.
Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, 2 in the future.
Anybody else have any comments?
I will have to check on whether or not we can have, if you see there's only 2 lines, well, 3 lines. So if we do Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, and then number, I don't know if it's gonna be the same grade or not. So I will
Lakeville
ask.
Cemetery, we know it's Addison Township. It's Lakeville Cemetery.
So if she will do all of it, Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, and then number it, you want them to have it all on there. If she says no, then we're just going to do the center one, Lakeville Cemetery, and just number the rest.
I don't care, I guess, what each individual one says. I prefer a more traditional approach and have something very simple. I don't really care for, you know, like that one has the floral designs in it.
Well, that's saying no design, so that's fine.
Can they do a proof once we tell them what we're looking at, so that we can see what it's gonna look like?
I can ask.
Yeah, I mean,
But right now, we're just trying to figure out what we want.
right, so I kinda like the scrolls and the extra art on it, but, I mean, I like the idea of just saying Addison Township as well, like the cemetery.
In her bid, I didn't see it added or any missing, so maybe the scroll comes with it. Or a,
So right here, number 2 on the 6 benches bid, optional sidewall inscriptions, both walls included, so quantity 5, and it's for $5,000. So we're only gonna do one side, so we're gonna save the $2,500. So she doesn't tell me how many lines are included, so I'm just kind of judging it from the side that there's typically 3 lines. So maybe she'll do the extra Addison Township with the cemetery.
Oh, or maybe they can come up with a couple different proofs if we're just gonna do this, the centered one, if that's the only one that's gonna say Lakeville Cemetery. Maybe, like, I think a scroll that's maybe more simple, maybe on the other 2 on each side would work.
Okay, so can we get, we can go to the next item, but I
I've got
would
a
need
question
something in the motion of what we want.
On the benches, so there's also a third kind of bench now. They have them at the Romeo Community Center, and plastic, and they're stuck into the ground. So I don't know if you guys.
I've seen the plastic ones, and we have some outside that were actually made out of recycled material. Typically, I usually gravitate for those, but in this case, because of, we're trying to match it, so I'm kind of leaning towards the cement or the block type bench so that it matches with the columbariums.
Are there backs on those?
No.
And I have, if we're only doing one side of the columbarium, the other side we're not doing, so maybe they would add the other, you know, the lines that we, and so why don't we see if we can get a couple renditions and bring it back to us what we want on there. I do like, you know, the little bit of scrolling on it, and then just input. It is known, it's known everywhere as a Lakeville Cemetery, but Addison Township, there is no Lakeville. The Lakeville there is no, it's a crossroad, okay? There's no municipality or anything of Lakeville, but Addison Township does take care of the cemetery, so it should say Addison Township, and the name of the cemetery is Lakeville, so maybe we could add both of those on there, so that
I can ask her.
Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, and then just put like you want the Roman numerals you're saying, or
I like the Roman
1, 2, 3. That would be.
Do you want to skip columbarium, 1, 2, 3, or just put the Roman numerals, or do you want to identify? So like these pictures, they all number columbarium number 1. I don't think we have to if we just want to put the Roman numeral after name.
I just put it after the name, everybody will see the numbers.
So skip columbarium.
I don't think you need columbarium, I think everybody knows that's like saying headstone, right? You don't need something that says headstone, you just need something that says, everybody will know what that is.
I'm proud of that. I
And
just
I like the
want
Roman numerals too.
to, I do too. I like that kind, I like that idea. So if you guys notice, these are pictures of actual designs that they have done. So I will ask her if she can prove. If she cannot prove, or not prove, but send us a proof. If she cannot, I will let everybody know that she cannot send a proof. Okay, so we got the name then.
Okay. And then the other thing was, item number 4 was the truck can't go into the cemetery with all of these columbariums because it's probably too tall, or it can't make the corner, it's too sharp. So we're gonna have to probably unload it, and it'll cost to have another form, either a front-end loader or something, to bring them up to the site where they will be. So it's gonna be a small added fee there, because
It would be something my tractor could carry.
I don't think so. Yeah, these are, no, I think it's gonna be like a big, I mean, we have people around that have those huge front-end loaders that we can do it with. But I just wanted everybody to know that there's gonna be another little fee there to get them in, because otherwise we'd have to take down the front gate. And then even making the radius, I don't think they can make it, because it's a semi.
Could a crane install those?
Well, crane will be present as well. So Matt went ahead and did a design for everybody. It's in the board pack. It's showing how the truck cannot make that radius to enter. I've also suggested that maybe they could go across the street and back into it, and he said there's no way that that size of the truck is going to make that connection. So he did give us 2 choices, and the Sunset company said that he doesn't think it's going to be that much. They do this all the time, where somebody comes and unloads it and then carries it over to, and it's about 500 feet. They were hoping to have an estimate by the board meeting, but the gentleman that's going to give us an estimate is going to come up this week, and he's going to look at the site because our engineer said we want a definitive price of what this delivery is going to be. So I was thinking that maybe, so that we don't have to come back again next month, is to actually allow Bruce to sign off an additional up to $5,000, and if for some reason it's more, then definitely we'll come back, but he seems to think it's going to be way under.
I had to do this when we got the grant for the cement restrooms up in the park. The truck couldn't get in there, so I arranged for one of the big front-end loaders to show up and unload all of the stuff, so we took care of that. I may be able to do that again. Okay, so there's plenty of people around here that have that kind of equipment, so we can, maybe we can work on that, but I should have authorization to pay something if they want to use their contractor or something, so that's what we're asking on this item right now. So if anybody have any suggestions, would you like to add something on that I not to go over a certain amount or whatever to get these loaded?
Which line item would we put that as, like maybe 5?
Are we replacing 183, 710 with 5,000?
Well, since our costs went down, and since we're only going to do one side, I came up with a new figure not to exceed $180,640. And that allows Bruce up to $5,000, because our new amount is going to be $175,640. So if the motion is 180, it allows him up to 180 for this delivery.
So say that,
Basically, we had a savings on some things, and now we're putting it into other things.
Yeah, so it's actually
okay?
less than before. I'm going to go ahead and try to make this motion, and somebody jump in.
I just have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Just with the amount of money that we're spending on the columbariums, I would prefer that we use a company that has insurance for this additional transport, not necessarily somebody local that can.
Mr. Davis already asked for proof of insurance. He is still working on an additional agreement. They're using a Great Lakes crane company, and this company is very particular who touches their items because they don't want anyone to touch their items. So we're with you on that, and that's probably going to be part of the agreement that all the independent contractors have insurance. I can also send the updated version that Mr. Davis is working on when it's completed. He was talking to the company just to find out a little bit more about that.
And I did use Great Lakes, their equipment, but I had to get them off the truck, and Great Lakes was way back in when I put them in, but I did use Great Lakes before, so for the cement restrooms.
I'd like to move that in addition to the original motion to authorize the purchase of 5 columbariums with sunset to include grading on one side and the front numbering, to ask legal if it's necessary to incorporate a township agreement with sunset, and authorize the purchase of 6 benches, and the engraving wording on the side of the columbarium is going to be Addison Township, Lakeville Cemetery, with only the Roman numeral numbers underneath Lakeville Cemetery on one side. Authorize a possible additional expenditure for logistics with the total expenditure to sunset not to exceed $180,640, and authorize the 50% of the columbarium payment be issued to sunset upon receipt of an invoice/agreement for a complete project meeting the specifications as stated with legal review and approval from the cemetery improvements account 101-276-750-000.
I'll support.
We have a motion and support. Any comments from the board?
Do we need to talk about the landscaping?
We'll do that next. But this one, this motion, okay, no further. We have roll call on this, please.
Jacob Newby,
Yes.
Karen Gowell,
Yes.
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Treasurer Fisher,
Yes.
Clerk Bennett, yes, Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passed. Now we'll move on to the next part, which is the engineers are out there and they wanted some clarification on the landscaping. As you know, we have the flags in front with the raised flower bed there, whatever. And then we also had the plantings around the walkway and the gazebo. But what was, we need to know, do we want to remove that front piece when they're doing this? Is that part of the landscaping that we want to do and leave, we're talking about leaving the flagpoles there, right? But get rid of the raised kind of the little brick thing there, and then redesign that.
Well, I think when I mentioned it last week to probably eliminate the landscaping, I know in my mind, I was thinking of all the flowers coming up and the plantings around the gazebo, but I kind of like the entrance of how they designed that, and I was thinking of keeping those planters more as a structure type planter in the landscape. But it really wasn't clear last month in that motion, so they want that clarified before they present it to the planning commission.
So what's the pleasure? Does anybody have any opinion?
So the price where we're at does or does not have those,
We have not received prices for construction.
so it would be.
So that's one reason why I said to take out all of this landscaping, plus with all the deer and rabbits in that cemetery, it's probably really not that wise to plant. They said that we could do this at a later time and they would be more concerned with the resistant plants. But this area it seems like it's part of the columbariums. So, and it's more of not a structure, but it's raised. So if we want to have some type of planning, they need to know that.
So do we have 5 planters there now?
We have one large planter and the flags are in it and there's flowers planted around it. That's going to be removed so that these 5 could kind of replace that. But there are some flower decorations of that one that's there. But that will be totally removed and the flags will be inserted in front as shown.
So what, I guess I'm not clear on what you're talking about, what needs to be removed?
It's okay, I'll show you.
Yeah,
So last month we said no landscaping, so I know in my mind I was thinking this.
right.
Does it include that, or does that stay? That's what they want clarification on.
So we have these there already, is what you're saying?
No, we have one that's fully around the
That's what I
flags.
thought, okay, that's what I was.
So that's removed, flags are gonna remain, and they're gonna have planters behind the flag. So do we wanna keep that or go
When you say keep it, meaning it's gonna be a new install to include those?
on the site plan, yes?
Thank you, yes.
Just a question to ask them. Planters, do they have the optional planters to match the bench and match this? So in other words, the planters would be empty, of course, but they'd be granite built right into it. So they could add on to it.
If you want like a darker shade or something, I'd imagine that they can do
Look
that.
at it the same shape as the benches. And just a thought, I mean, I don't know, it might be expensive, it might be not worth the time.
They might be able to do it in a different type of a stone or a color that's not the brownish color is what you're after.
Yeah.
So are we pouring all of this in concrete then, or are we having like
Well,
pavers or some kind of?
Remember, he's gonna get us bids,
Right.
and I believe Karen wanted,
I just proposed exposed area.
yes, as part of it, and then we're gonna get stamped, and then he's also going to get, these pavers. He said that he'll bid it out 3 different ways, so that we're covered, and then we can pick which one we like the best. So I've already told him that we're okay with his preliminary plan, but he does need the direction. Are we removing all landscaping or just the flowers?
And so we'll see different versions of the planters. I would like to see different versions of the planters included.
So you want the planters in there, but you'd rather have a different color, like I said?
No, there's different options. I mean, if he's gonna do one that's exposed aggregate or ones that are stone.
Yeah, different ideas. So,
Make the planters match the cement.
Yeah, whatever.
Or more than Calvary, whatever. Okay, yeah.
My concern would be if we have these large landscaping areas, we really don't have anybody to maintain them since we don't have a public works department. I think we would probably rely heavily on the auxiliary to maintain them. So I think nothing is going to look worse as if we have these big flower beds and then they're overgrown and not being well tended. So I guess I would proceed without anything and then work with the auxiliary to see what they would like for.
I would like to see them stay, as there's something there. The auxiliary does work on the flowers. We do have a sexton who will actually also go up there if needed. On the flower beds that are there, less now that they do have a new president, things are going to start moving again. So I'm comfortable with those being maintained between the auxiliary and the employee that we have.
Do we, like, how big are each of those?
Don't know, on the site plan, that will have to be listed. If we choose not to do these now, Mr. Bowman has said that we will have to label them and say we're not going to do them now if we want to do it at a later date. I'd rather go for it now so that the project's complete.
So when they pour the cement, they would not pour cement in those, so that they're.
Again,
what it kind of
they have
looks
not
like.
disclosed what those planters are made of, so I won't know until they actually do a site plan, which that's what we're gonna work on next, so that we can actually get our approval before spring, and then we can get this done.
I do see one point there, though, if we don't have a sprinkler system there, anything, who's watering them and everything
I
too.
don't think they'll water. I don't think they'll water.
I mean,
Do we have a planter there now that's maintained? I thought
We do, but a lot of them are perennials, they don't need as much water. So if we put that in, we're gonna have to be careful as far as what type supply.
maybe instead of flowers or something, we could just put like these small Japanese little trees or whatever they have, but those don't take any maintenance.
Yeah, if we leave them there, I suppose we could tone down and put shrubs or things that don't require a whole lot of maintenance. I mean, it certainly dresses it up and makes it look really nice.
I think it makes sense to lean towards leaving them in, and if we decide we don't want them, then we take it out. Because if they have to go forward with a quote with them, we don't know what size, we don't know what it's gonna be made out of.
But on site plan, it has to be stated whether we're gonna do it, or are we going to do it at a later date?
Well, it gives us time to think about it.
Right. So
Yeah, at
we
least
could
that.
actually say include them, and then for site plan purposes, say that we'll put them in at a later date, so that if what happens, like what Karen is saying, that if the expense comes out too much, we can actually say no, if we word it that way on the site plan.
I like the way they look, I like the way they look, they complement the columbarium.
think so
I don't know the
too.
size, but it kind of gives you a little space to be in. And
Do you like the bright color, or do you like the color that would be more of a darker tone?
I mean, I think contrast is good, but I mean, we don't even know what this is, so it's like, it's hard to tell from this rendering. It looks like bricks, but
That's what I thought too.
Okay, so what's your pleasure?
Well, it sounded like we kind of figured it out already. And the suggestion is get a few ideas, one or two, maybe three or four, and the pricing, and if it's too expensive, we'll say no.
So the next part of that, they're gonna do a site plan, and they're gonna fill out an application. So do you as the board want to see this site plan, even though we're gonna see it after the planning commission? Or are you guys okay if Bruce reviews the site plan and determines if what we're approving here as a preliminary, that it's sufficient to go to the planning commission? That would be the next part of the motion.
Well, I think there's electronic versions that maybe we could have a look at, and if we had concerns that we could say, hold on a minute, or we can have the board meeting not to go to the planning commission, but I think I'd like to see it in advance of, what Bruce is saying, so I guess the motion would be something to authorize the supervisor to review it, but at the same time, send out electronic copies to the board for comments.
I think that'd be a reasonable, just to send out our copies so everybody sees it, and
But we
that's,
just really don't want to start commenting to all of us.
Oh, we could reply to it, just simply, don't send it to the planning commission, like, be on the agenda, or
That would be
okay
okay.
to send to planning.
A request to put it on the agenda would be fine, but okay to send to the planning commission would be reaching a consensus amongst them.
That's okay.
Really?
okay, so what's your motion now then? We have a motion that's,
Linda made it, I'll second it.
Colleen's concerned.
So Linda needs to say, are we going to keep in those 5 raised ornamental structures in her motion, and then the rest of it? Or the other way around, whichever you prefer.
Okay, now I'm on this spot to put together a motion. Well, as I said before, I'd like to see the supervisor to review the site plan submittal, and also electronic copies to be sent to the board member. And how did you want me to say that, to say forward to planning commission or not forward to planning commission?
I'm not really sure. I guess you can say,
Nobody replies, forward to the planning, so when it stops, it stops it.
Yeah.
request it to go to the township board.
Okay, to request to go to township board, if not, go to the planning commission.
If nobody has any issues, let it go. And I'll second that.
Well, there was the other part that we needed to talk about, the planters.
need the additional expenditures.
Are the planters an additional expenditure? I thought they were.
No, we don't know that expenditure yet, we're just trying to give in our engineers what we really want. So we're trying to decide if we want those 5 raised ornamental structures in front of the columbariums to remain in the site plan.
I would like to see the planters remain in the site plan. I would also like to see maybe a couple concepts.
for colors.
for colors and materials.
Do we have a second?
I'll still hold my second.
We have your second. Any comments from anybody else? Can we have roll call on that, please?
Yes. Jacob Newby,
Yes.
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Karen Bible,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes, Supervisor Pearson.
Yes.
Can I ask a question real quick for clarification? How about since you want to see different ideas for these, maybe that's the time to bring it back to the board and that's when we can say, okay for Bruce?
So you're suggesting that we?
Now just clarifying, do you want to see those three, do you want to see those
Sure, when we
conditions?
get them ready, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, move on to item number 3, which is fire department. I see the check here. That's a purchase of technical rescue equipment from ahsrescue.com for $6,842.77 from 203-304-974-000. Everybody has a cover letter here that explains why the chief was asking for this. Chief, can you just give us a brief?
Yeah, some of this tech rescue stuff that we have is outdated. There's going to be some rope, webbing, things of that nature. The list explains all of those, but they do have a shelf life. They are life safety equipment. Unfortunately, we're past that about 2 years. We have to replace some of that stuff. So that's what I'm asking the board to replace now.
Okay. So this is from one source?
So actually, we priced it out. AHS was the cheapest. So we followed the purchase ordinance from the township because none of this stuff was proprietary, so it was easy to get some competitive bids out there. And AHS is the cheapest and meets our specifications for all that equipment.
Okay.
I want to point out that the chief already had this in the budget, correct?
Yes, I did. Yes, we budgeted this year.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of the technical rescue equipment from ahsrescue.com for $6,842.77 from 203-304-974-00.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Who was the second? Oh, that was a second? Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any further comments on this? We have roll call, please.
Karen Bible,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Jacob Newby,
Yes.
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Bennett, yes, Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, that passes. Now, part B is a waive purchasing ordinance and approve the purchase of 2 Bullard thermal imaging cameras for $6,538 from 204-304-974. Go ahead on this one, Chief.
Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about the money that we have available for this. We bought that ladder truck, a used ladder truck. We dual rolled that truck as an engine and a ladder, and that's called a quint. And it has to have certain equipment on there for us to get our points for ISO, right, and keep our ISO rating down. So with that being said, we spent about $3,000 with different equipment that we needed on that truck pretty cheaply. We've used some things here and there, and we got about $7,000 left. So with that, I'd like to purchase the expensive thing, and that's the thermal imaging camera, or TIC we call it, right? And that is an essential piece of equipment on that ladder truck. And being a Bullard thermal imaging, we already have those available. So workability and cohesiveness in working those pieces of equipment would be beneficial. So I'd also like to get one for the command car, because years now going by with using thermal imaging cameras, we've used those extensively on fire scenes and found out their usability. And I'd like to get one on the camera. When we pull up and we do accountability and I do scene size up, it'd be really nice to be able to know where that fire is with that camera. So 2 of those cameras are about $6,500, and that's what I'm asking the township to waive the purchasing ordinance due to they are a single source provider, and there's only one in the state of Michigan that sells that equipment, so. And approve that purchase.
What we need is a motion first to waive the purchasing ordinance.
I've got one question for the chief before we
Yeah.
What's the difference in the tick and the iris?
The Iris is an old manufacturer. That was the, you're dating yourself now. Like when I was first on. Yeah, when we were first on, we actually had back in '97, I think it was actually a helmet with a battery, and the thing was heavy, and it was one of the first thermal imaging cameras they had for the fire service, and it was $28,000. These have come a long way, and we've really learned how to use them proficiently and really get in there and find the fire, to see the fire a lot faster, and if there's victims in there and stuff. We also use them for search and rescue. It's not just for fires, it's also for search and rescue, side of the road, car, somebody's in a ditch, we don't see them, and that you can catch their heat signature by that really quickly. But yes, it's come a long way, and the cameras are way more efficient than they were before. Iris is an actual manufacturer of the cameras years ago.
Okay, so if there's a fire, there is a child inside a room, building's on fire. With this camera, you can see the difference in thermal images. There's a human being in there, get in there and save it.
Exactly, we sure could.
Love it.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to waive the purchasing ordinance for the thermal imaging cameras due to a single source supplier. Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Jacob Levine,
Yes.
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Karen Bethel,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson,
Yes, that passes. Now we need a motion to authorize the purchase of the two thermal imaging cameras for, is it $6,538 from?
Since I made the motion 18 years ago for the Iris, I'd like to make a motion that we purchase the two Bullard thermal imaging cameras in the amount of $6,538 to come out of capital account 304-974-000, and there are sufficient funds to pay for that.
I'll second.
And that was 24 years ago.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Thank you.
Jacob Levine,
Yes.
Karen Bethel,
Yes.
Linda Garrett,
Yes.
Ed Brightfield,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson,
Yes, and that passes. Okay, item number 4 is a survey for the single waste hauler internet service and the winter tax bill. At last month's meeting, we authorized the treasurer to start a web-based survey, and I think it's available now at the township. This was completed, and it's out there. We received a request from Trustee Garrett to include a survey, and the tax bill include broadband issue in the survey. Anything you wanted to add on your request?
No, I did receive a couple of sample languages from Lori and from Pauline, and thought maybe we could talk about those.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it.
I have a question. Number one, let's use Lori's. On this one, we're planning on putting 2 to the tax bill.
Well, I guess what I would like to talk about is the tax bills. We only send tax bills to the residents that don't have mortgages.
I was wondering about that.
As far as I can tell, we have about 3,400 parcels, but those are a lot of vacant property parcels. They're personal property parcels. So when we try to look at how many houses do we actually have in the township, and I know Chief and I have talked about this, and he said about 2,400. But I also, because of the garbage issue, we don't necessarily want to send this information to people in the village, because then it becomes quite confusing. So we send out about we have about 2,600 homes, but 1,000 of those tax bills go to mortgage companies. So that really only leaves us with about 1,500 tax bills that we're sending out. Of those, I think about 500 are not necessarily people that live in the township full-time. So it could be a rental house, but it could also be a second home. So my personal thought was a tax bill is not the best place to put information out. It's a very cheap place to put information out, but from past experience, we tried to do a park survey. I think we got 29 responses back from the tax bills. What I would prefer to see if we're going to send out a survey is in February, we send out an assessment notice. Every single house in the township receives one of those, or every property owner, I should say. The other thing that I was thinking is even if we mailed up to about 2,700 surveys out in an envelope that's marked survey, that at 60 cents a piece, so that should cover the paper and the envelope and the postage, would be about $1,620. So what we have to, I think, look at is what is our purpose of doing the surveys. For the garbage, I was really just looking for some feedback of, is this broadly what people are looking for and want. If we're going to start looking at the internet, I know in order to use the ARPA funds, we had to have more specific data. We had to show that we had underserved populations. We had to show that you could achieve certain megabits per second response on, to show the improvement. So I think if we're really looking at trying to gather data for internet, that we don't necessarily want to send one survey with a ton of questions because I really think it's going to be too overwhelming for them. But the other white piece of paper that I passed out would be some questions that I would think would be very important for us to know if we're actually looking for internet, such as the number of people in a house. Because I think it's important to know whether you've got 6 people in a house or 1 person. Whether they're really, if they have internet or whether they just use their smartphone, whether they're doing online school or remote work. There's also a section, and I just threw this together this afternoon, I wasn't necessarily expecting to do this today, but it also, we can list a website to go to so that people can do their speed test, because that, again, if we're going to use any ARPA funds for it, we need that information. I'd also be really curious, who people currently have for a provider and roughly what are they paying, because I think that would help us, whether we know if we can make an improvement or not.
Do you think it's important to know, the address on here, I think part of my thinking was to identify the areas in the township that were underserved.
Right, I think with the ARPA funds, I thought we had to plot out where the underserved areas were, so that would be very important, is to know and to start putting together a map and say, okay, on Boardman, this is what's available, this is what people are using, so we can kind of see who's using what in the township. And not that we want to gather data of how many people are living in a particular house for our own purposes, but it makes a big difference on your internet, whether you've got 4 kids. I know my kids stream movies and play gaming systems, and we are maxed out.
So we have three of the same question. How many people are living there? Does anyone do remote work or school? Or would you consider light, moderate, heavy use? That's kind of...
Well, and this is, like I said, I just threw this together this afternoon. If we were going to do an internet survey, we wanted to actually collect good data. I think that we could say, so-and-so didn't fill out 20 of them. I think this needs some work, but I just wanted to present an idea and something that would give us some...
Well, I like the idea of sending it with the assessment, something that everyone's going to get. And I thought about it afterwards on the tax bill, and I'm like, wait a minute, let them go ahead and mortgage this. It's going to...
And demographically, we have to look at who gets a tax bill. It's probably not a lot of your younger people with kids.
Right, they have mortgages. So I like the smaller survey personally. I like fewer questions on them. I think putting not spending $1,600 unless I can card the American Rescue money.
I think we can use that for...
I'll just add, I met with the governor today, and she was at OCATS, and my question to her was about the internet, because I'm receiving calls now that AT&T is no longer going to service the DSL lines, and people are losing their internet now, and they have no recourse, there's nothing else. They contacted Charter just to go down to do 4 houses, they want like $18,000, and that's prohibitive. The people don't have line of sight to any of the towers or whatever, so I asked the governor, I said, this is our problem up in Addison, because we're a little more rural up here, and they did take down my question, and the governor's secretary said that they will get back with it. They are working on it. There is money too that's coming to the state of Michigan for this purpose. So, I mean, it's a fluid situation. I just don't know what the best thing to spend our money on. That's what my question to the governor was, what system that everybody else is going to go with, that the state is going to support, so that we're not wasting our money on buying some system that is antiquated and nobody's going to use it. So I asked for them to tell us, and they said they'd get back with me to find out what system, because, you know, we're connected. In Addison Township, all five top townships are all connected with up north, all the way up to the Mackinac. We're Charter. Everything south of 32 is Comcast. So we're in a whole different ballgame. So they said they would get back to me on this. So I think it's kind of a fluid situation. But I don't have a problem with the township spending stamp money to put this out, to get it to everybody's house, to actually get a direct reflection. You're saying how much? $1,600?
At 60 cents a piece, so it depends on whether, and I think, you know, it'd be good, maybe, you know, if Jacob wanted to work on this with me, of like, you know, do we send out a postcard that, or you have the unique identifier on, do we just print it off, you know, after we come up with the questions? I think it needs some work on exactly how we're going to do this. 60 cents a piece.
When you get stuff from the state, they always have surveys. They say you don't have to put your name, but if you look, there's a number. So there's ways to identify those.
And I would like to, so that we know that we didn't get 20 back from somebody that's, you know, really upset. So they could all be numbered. We can tie that back with a mailing list and numbers. From the garbage surveys, I'm actually noticing people are freely giving their email addresses, so I would like to put an email address on there so that we can communicate with people. Another thing, instead of having people return a paper copy back, would be that it has a unique code on it. You then go put your code on your survey, so that way we would know that this was N7236 responding back.
In section 23.
Or, you know, whatever, so that it's an identifier. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's just, is this something to spend money on?
I will tell you that we use the Every Door Direct for the fire department, and everybody should get like a little flyer that we put in the mail. It's rather cheap. I think it's like down to 11 cents. So when you get down to that, we can whittle away at that $1,600 just from the knowledge that I've gotten, and I'll be more than glad to help you out with that mailer. We do it every year, and we print it and mail it out, and it only costs us like $800 and some to hit to 2,300 homes.
I don't know if that could have a unique number on it though.
Yes, it probably won't, but
That's the reason those are so cheap, is because they literally, you give them 2,400 postcards and they're just gonna put one in every mailbox.
well, I have to sort them out and everything. There's a little bit of work to it. But we do a lot of work to save ourselves money. But anyway,
One reason why I like Linda's idea, so we have an electronic survey on our website, which was a great job. But I'm curious, because we never really did surveys before. Where are we going to get most of the response from? Is it going to be electronic, or is it going to be by the mail? I'm okay with waiting to the assessments if you feel it reaches more people, because we have stuff again with the tax forms before. We had newsletters, there was one last year. So, I mean, either way the board goes with that, I'm okay. And then it also gives us time, if we're not doing the tax bills, to work on this. I like this. The only thing that I would like to see is the option of, if the people do want to go with a single hauler, do they want it on their tax bill, or do they want it on invoice from the company? Because it does make a big difference for payment to the people, whether it's on the tax bill or whether it's invoice, especially if they are going to go away as a snowbird. Because currently, right now, you can suspend your service for 3 months if you leave. And in Waterford Township, they actually have that. And then also on this survey, the internet one, the only one that I'm concerned with is I was really curious. So most people who have internet provider are either going to be AT&T or cable, and they meet all the qualifications. But those that don't have cable, they're doing outside sources for their service. I'm really curious to find out what are they using if they don't have a cable or a franchise providing that service. So that would be awesome if you can kind of stick it in there. No, I don't have cable, but I'm using blank. And what do they think about that?
Well, that's the current internet provider, so I don't have any cable available.
Well,
You don't say, what are you using? In my mind, when I read that, I'm thinking it's either Charter or AT&T.
No, I have Sprint, I'm sorry, AT&T, switched over.
Have a hotspot?
Yeah, so I switched over to a hotspot. I have AT&T DSL is still slightly available, but it's so poor quality.
So you're saying that they should read it as current internet?
Well,
so
and like
much
I said, we
cable.
can go over and like I would ask, give this sheet to multiple people and say, and see if people fill it out correctly. If we were gonna spend money on this, it needs to be tested, so I would need to hand it to several people and then see if they can fill it out and understand the directions.
I think this one is the most important one. Linda MTA has joined a coalition and they're trying to pool everybody together to make the internet happen. One of the things that they've also said that there are going to be grants in the future for mapping because cable, Charter, and AT&T, that's proprietary information, they won't be given out. So there is going to be help for us, hopefully in the future, going and working with the state level to see if that's going to solve our problems here, which then really leaves the garbage survey.
Well, if we send it out one, and I'll see what we can send out too, but
Oh, I agree. So
So-
we might as well find out what roads there are, so it would be a good way to find out where they're located.
so all of Northeast Addison Township, in the area where I live, nobody has cable. I don't know where cable is.
There's no
You
cable
mention
anywhere.
cable all the time, like everybody has it, and I don't know where, maybe it goes in the village. I think it did go in the village, but then they switched to AT&T, so I don't know what happened with that. But do you have cable, Bruce, over where you are?
No, there's no cable available, no place in the northern part of Addison Township, except in the village, and it goes down Rochester Road and down Lakeville Road, and then just a couple offshoots on those roads. But no, there's mine that comes from the big tower on the family farm up here, on the north end of the lake. That one, if you're in the direct sight of that, you could get internet off of that. That was when Brooks Patterson put all of the downtown areas on the internet through that. But no, there's no cable. That's the issue. And I thought this was important enough. That's why I brought it to the governor that our kids can't compete in school and everything in the northern areas. There is no internet there unless you go with that Starlight or Starlink. And the problem with that is there's a waiting list on it. It's $500 to even apply for it, and then it's $100 and some a month. But there's a waiting list for that too. So that isn't. But if that is the future, then we should know that. Then maybe we can adjust to that also. But I just thought this was important enough that for $1,000 or whatever it costs to send that out, I think it's important enough for our community to be able to keep up with the other communities, especially for our children in school, that I don't mind spending that kind of money to get an answer. So
When's the assessments go out?
Mid-February.
By the time we bring this back next month for the completed survey.
The difference being with tax bills, I literally noticed everybody walks in with their tax bill still in the envelope and they open it when they're at the counter. People are not, they don't necessarily open it and read through it. So I think it's a good thing to put a newsletter in there because it's maybe costing $80 to stuff those with something, but people don't open up their tax bills and look through the papers, because I see them opening them up at the counter, going, oh, what's this?
That's the first thing I do.
So with the assessment notices, I don't know what they do. If we did send it out and spend the money, I would send it out in an envelope that says, you know, internet survey enclosed, so that it was clearly something.
We do have money in community development. I mean, I want to see these back on the agenda next month, which is for us to review these after Lori goes through them again with the suggestion, and then we just need to, I think we need to decide how we want to do it.
I agree, and on the garbage survey,
There is actually another question on there that Pauline asked me to include this.
I wanted to, yeah, for the garbage survey, I just wanted a little blurb on why we're doing it. We're not doing this just to you know, do it and run everybody out of business. We're doing it to save the roads, we're doing it to get recycling and large item pickups, and to negotiate as a group so that we can get the cheaper rate, okay? And that is free enterprise. We're gonna negotiate with all of the garbage companies. I don't care who wins it, as long as they do the job and they can beat the other competitor's price. That's all I'm looking at. But I want something that, I would hope that we have something up there why we're doing it, not.
I think on the internet motion that we bring back the two surveys next month after Lori's had a time to change them up a little bit, and then at that meeting we can decide if it's coming from community development or the assessment.
I'll second that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So then we would be putting both of these surveys in the assessment environment?
We don't know that until next month, because my motion was for Lori to come back with these two finished products for the board to review and take our suggestions, and then next month decide if they're gonna go into the assessment or if we're gonna take the money out of community development and mail them directly.
There can actually be two pieces of paper in the mailing that they can respond to each one of them.
And in the past, we would always do color coded, so that always helps them out too.
Lori, can't you do a bond that would take out all of the Village of Leonard parcels?
Not in the tax bills. The way those are printed, we can only sort so many different ways.
Is there a program through Oakland County where you can do mailings? I know
If it was a
the-
separate mailing, we could do that. If we do it with tax bills, because those are sorted differently, or assessment notices, we usually have Oakland County send out. I don't know for certain how that would work. I don't know if we could pull out, you know, just send the internet to the Village of Leonard residents, and then everybody would get both. I don't know if that's possible.
Colin, when you do CBAs, isn't there a way to like direct where you want all the addresses that you want to record?
It's through Oakland County program, and it'll have like this square footage. Yeah.
So we would probably get all the addresses and eliminate the village. Is it just by square
We've
footage?
never had to go that far. We would just give it the radius and it'll come up, the parcel IDs.
If we were doing a separate mailing, it certainly can be done. It's just whether or not the county with the assessment notices, because, you know, they will stuff a second piece of paper in with the assessment notice. I don't know that we can ask them to sort out and do different papers with different addresses.
Yeah.
But if we were doing our own mailing, we absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so I
In the Village of Leonard, there are what, 200?
There's actually 53 homes.
53 homes and there's 200 people. So the bottom line is I think we can separate 53 out of there, right, manually?
The assessment notices, we don't mail those, Oakland County does, so I don't know if they will.
If we're doing direct mailing.
If we're doing direct mailing, there's no problem, we can do anything else.
If Oakland County mails the assessment notice, how are we going to put these in there?
Because we can give them the file and
Okay.
tell them, I want one of these on green paper or something. But I think that they would all have to do the same.
Okay.
Okay. The township gets calls now from people saying their AT&T is now gonna be canceling their DSL now, not in February. That's the problem of waiting till February. It's like kicking a dead horse. I think AT&T is gonna shut them off in the end of December. Or something, I heard rumored that.
Well, they told the people that they're no longer going to service them. So when they go down, because everybody sees these little green boxes and they put a piece of garbage bag over them and everything, they're getting all water in them and everything. And when they get the water in them, and they're not coming out to fix them anymore. So that's what's happening. And they said they're no longer going to service hardware. And if you know, that passed several years ago. So even your telephone line now, if you disconnect your telephone line, you don't get it back now. Because they're not bringing hardwares back. So
That
that's
brings
the
to the
issue.
next question. Can we wait till February for the internet?
Which we're going to have to, only in the sense that I'm going to have to wait to find out what the state is going to do, because they're coming up with some kind of a plan, and there's no use us, getting some kind of an internet that's not even going to work with what the state is planning.
Okay.
We might be able to next month.
Yeah.
With that motion.
Okay.
Okay, so we had a motion and we had a second, forgot who did it and what it was. So,
Second.
and second.
I did a second, someone else did, but you did a second, I'll be happy to second.
Okay, so could you just state the motion again?
To bring both of these surveys back, and with the suggestions received, and at the same time bring that back next month with the suggestions received, and then also that we'll decide whether we're going to do a direct mailing or do put them in the assessments next month at that time.
Okay, any other comments? We'll just have roll call on that, please.
Jacob Newton.
Yes.
Karen Donald.
Yes.
Linda Miller.
Yes.
Ed Brayco.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, that passes. Moving on to item number 5, this is OPC, Older Persons Commission down in Rochester is back open again. This is for authorization of partial reimbursement for our seniors to go down to OPC. This was very successful. Unfortunately, last year because of COVID, OPC closed, and of course we didn't provide that service. And I think it's time that our seniors are all coming back now, and they're now becoming active again. And I think it's time that we give them the opportunity to go back down to OPC and use the facilities down there. Anybody have any questions on that?
I did check with OPC because I know that they had closed for COVID and it's closed for quite a while. So we're paying 50% or up to 50%. So what OPC did is instead of reimbursed money, they extended their membership so that, and I asked, well, what would happen if by horrible chance it has to close again? They would do the same. So the resident is not going to receive money that we partially paid for. They're just going to extend their membership again if they have to close, which I thought that was a fair way of OPC handling that they just extend the membership. And the seniors who have participated in this, they love it.
Yes.
Two things. One, we have participated in it, and we did love it. I liked the idea, so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. Nobody has a problem with it.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and do the senior citizen community activities at 50%. Qualifications, I'm not going to include that because it's on a list of stuff, but I'd like to make that motion that we do subsidize 50% of the membership of the OPC.
Up to 8,000.
Up to 8,000.
Thank you. I'll
Sorry.
support.
And Pauline will support. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Jacob Newton.
Yes.
Karen Donald. Yes. Linda Miller.
Yes.
Ed Brayco. Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes, that passes.
Can I make a real brief comment?
Yes.
To the people in the camera's running. We did use it. You go to the OPC, you sign up for your membership, you sign up normal, you turn that membership into the township to let them know that you have joined the OPC and you will get a reimbursement at a later time. You won't get it right then, but it will come in later, so we have taken advantage of it. It's a great, they have the swimming pools, they've got everything there, so first, if you're interested, go check it out and then join it.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6 is review of the township website and consideration of a proposal. Our website host is STG, and we've used them, but I've noticed too that it's not ADA compliant, and they said they can bring that up to speed on,
They are now.
they are
I
now.
spoke with them and they are now 88 on their
And I know that Ed,
gold package.
that Ed talked with them at length
Yes.
about this. You know, they charge us $500. Our website, you know, is not out there to get business wherever. It's for information. What do they charge us? 500?
It's $500 a year to host. Since IT Light has now either gone with this company or sold it, they're still at $500 a year to host if we choose to. But they did call and they went through, as you guys have received it. Go ahead, line by line, you can go ahead and go through it and I'll chat with you.
Well, no, go ahead. And, I mean, you guys have spoken with the company as far as the website. They said they can improve our website, is what, for $750?
Well, yeah, it's a two-parter.
Right, so we have put out proposals in the past on this, and no one's been able to touch that price of $500 or $750. So my thing is that we should just stay with STG and move forward and get a little better service. They said they could do a little better for us, unless somebody has something that they'd like to add as service.
I would, after the discussion. I would like us to focus in on their gold package, which is on page 14 of their quote. The silver package is nice, it's a little bit cheaper, but their gold package would be still less expensive than all of the other competitors. You'll notice on about the third line from the bottom, the website is with the attention to ADA compliant guidelines. If you take that attention and make it does include ADA guidelines. But on page 16, I believe it's 16, we have a special reason for an additional ADA guideline or requirement. They can do that in an extra charge, but right now their gold package is ADA. What I'd also like to consider is on page 15, both of the ongoing ADA compliant scanning, which is what I just mentioned. They said if we had a reason to go with special ADA. And also, and I just briefly mentioned to you, the aerial drone photography and videography. That might have a very good purpose. You don't pay for it, but per use, which is $250 per use if we needed it. And they would give us the pilot for 2 to 3 hours. He said maybe a little bit more if we needed. But he said usually 2 to 3 hours, you can do 2 or 3 spots. So we might have to have something to put on our website that would have to go overhead. And I think that's a pretty good price for the website if we put that on our website with the drone photography.
And they handle all the day-to-day upkeep and everything on the website, right?
Yes.
For the fixed cost. Yes, go ahead.
I spent a lot of time looking at different municipalities' websites. I think our website could use a little bit of improvement. I don't think it's maneuverability-wise, it seems a little hard to use. When I update my department, I have a lot of hard times, like I can't get things to change colors and I can't line things up. So our current website is very limited in what we can actually do with it. So I did go to a bunch of different municipalities, and Linda, my favorite one was Addison Township. And Revise seems to be consistently put out really, really good product. Plymouth Township, Grand Blanc Township, and Albion and Harrison Township all appear to use Revise. You can tell when you go to the websites. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it tells you who's hosting the website. So they're a little bit more the first year, but I see the second year and after they actually drop in price from what STG is. I also did look at some of the ones that STG designed, and I noticed consistently the wording shifted over, so there's not margins where they're supposed to be. So it, not quite as polished, I guess, as what I see Revise putting out. And then Ed, to your issue with the overheads, Oakland County actually has a great website with Property Gateway on it.
Okay.
And we can zoom in and see your horses in your yard and
I've seen
you
that
swimming in
before.
your pool during the summer. So we actually are very fortunate in Oakland County that they have a whole GIS mapping system that we can utilize. So we're pretty good on overheads, I think.
What's the price of Revise?
Revise, well, there's a difference here. So STG is giving us the gold. Revise's estimate is the bottom of the line, and we will not be able to get our pictures on there because we have to pick from their own. STG, when I compared STG's to Revise, like STG's website, I like that they're able to work with us. They've already said that the $45 if we went with the $750 would be included, so they will continually scan our website to make sure everything's okay. Comparison in price, Revise bottom of the line, where we're not going to have our pictures, is $3,500 to switch over, whereas STG Gold package is going to be $32.45. So I'd rather go for the Gold package with STG. They are very quick and responsive. They'll call you back, they service you very well. They actually will help you with the website. So I'm going with Revise, not Revise, I'm going with STG.
Revise does appear that it dropped to $1,400 a year after the first year.
Correct, but the initial turnover, we're getting their low end and we're getting gold with STG. So in my mind, that's a big difference. STG is going to be $750 a year after they convert it, and Revise will be $1,400. But the standard of the two, I think, are going to be different. When you go to the Revise websites that they list here, it's not pictures of our township, it's set pictures that they have in their base. I'm not saying that Revise is not good, because I go to other Revise sites and they're probably spending a lot more money. They're wonderful. But for the price and for what we need this for, STG's service and their websites that I have been to are excellent. And I have not noticed that they're a pain to shake or anything like that. Every time I have a complaint, I call them and they take care of it immediately.
I have a question. How do we know that they don't use our photos? I know it says it goes to there's 5 different
Right.
designs to fit your organization, but it also says customization, so how do we know they?
That I'm not sure of, but you have to pick the background. It's going to be their 5. I would imagine at a later date, we might be able to upload photos, whereas this company is willing to come out, which is totally different pictures than Oakland County's. They're actually willing to come out, and you go to their website and you can see it. It's pictures with this drone. They're amazing pictures that they can put on our website of Addison Township, which is going to be absolutely amazing to have. Whereas Oakland County does have the overviews, and it's great for us to research, oh yeah, the house is right here and it's on the property line. Great. They're all about, when they're doing their, what do you call it, the drone, it's about pictures. It's about beautiful pictures. They show pictures of lakes. They show pictures of the trees when we go to their website and their drone capabilities. They're just beautiful. So it'd be nice.
So the drones, those are not for people to utilize to look at things, it's for promotional pictures.
It's on our website, yes.
Well, I would be happy with either one, I guess I should say.
I was hoping, it's just something I've seen on a few websites where you can click things and the audio plays of that, like a transcription service on there. I know, if you have bad eyes or something, or you're looking at it all day.
I asked all 3 companies that question, and all 3 basically responded. I think STG gave the lengthier response. that most that would need that service, they have that ability on their computer, and they even said the program name, and that's what they would use. So their system is compatible with the programs that do allow audio, but it's not where you click and the audio is going to come through. They have to have that program. So they're all the same on that one.
There's one more thing, and I don't know if the other two do this. STG's offer is they can make fill-in forms where people want to fill in a permit or something. They can actually fill it in online and submit it to the correct department. So if the building inspector, you want to get a inspection or something like that, you go online, click on the building department, the form is there, you fill your name out, and you do the electronic signature, hit enter, and boom, it goes right to our building department, which is a pretty nice thing to have.
And thank you for bringing that up. We have been wanting to do that for ages, but no one has time to sit down there and turn this in, and this company for that fee is going to do that, which is absolutely amazing. We have been with the previous company, I think it was under Dan Elbert, he brought it in, so we definitely need to change it up. This is the time to do it since we need to be ADA compliant. So I like the fact that we're going to be compliant, we're going to be able to be ADA compliant, but we'll also give it that update that we desperately need.
And I'd like to make a motion.
I'll make that motion. Wait,
I was gonna say you're making a motion to keep STG with the gold package.
yes. I'll second that. But I would like to make sure, see if we'd like to add the drone service.
The drone service sounds like.
Could we also go to the 750 annual
Yes.
fee and the drone?
That's on page 15.
750, okay. So I set the drone at 250, and then the fully managed run is the 750.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I like that too.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, and we have a second.
Would this come out of community projects?
Is that where you want it to come from?
Yes, we have $7,500, so we do have enough here, $7,500 left over in community projects, so this would be the appropriate place to take it from.
Okay, so that's 101, 103, 884, 002?
Correct.
Okay, so we get from that, your second?
Yes.
And that too? Okay, any other comments? Okay, roll call please.
Karen Dowdle.
Yes.
Jacob Moody.
Yes.
Lynn Garrett.
Yes.
Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes.
Brentfield is
And
out.
Brakefield.
Get it. I'm saying no.
Hey, my fingers is going. And Brakefield.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come to public forum now. If anybody has anything in public that they'd like to let us hear, this is where we don't respond, but we do listen. And if you just state your name, and we'll limit you just to 3 minutes, is what we're going to do. So if anybody has anything in public forum, please go right ahead.
Okay, guess not. All right, but I did read here that it says, my name is Diane Queen and I need to be recognized by the township supervisor.
Yes, we go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, because I do not have any legal background. Anyway, so I've been here before last time, and we have still the dock issue, even though it's cold outside and all the docks are being removed. So I'm a little bit confused. So on August 10th, a bunch of us went to the LLPOA, and they agreed to assist a new ordinance, better written than the one that was rejected at the planning committee. And so they have supported us to come here and asked us to resubmit our ordinance. So if there's a problem with what I said, which I don't think so. So I wrote a letter dated August 12th to this township represented by Bruce, and I also copied Wayne from the LLP asking you to put our new ordinance on the agenda here. So unfortunately, I didn't get any feedback at all about, okay, I will, I won't. Now I can read the letter I sent to the township, but I don't know if I need to. I can leave a copy here. And I don't know why I didn't get a response. I don't know how this works. But then again, moving on, we're not on the agenda. And it does say here, an Addison Township official has to respond and put us on the agenda within 90 days. There must be a notice written, all people have to have it here. Anyway, and you haven't done anything, so I'm confused about that. So moving on though, then I researched a little bit more, and I don't understand the planning committee that rejected our first ordinance, which was supported by the team to write the ordinance to bring it here. So the planning committee is an open forum. Is it here in Addison Township that the planning committee is open to people to join when they have an issue? I think by law we're allowed to go to planning commission. So I wrote another letter and asked who from our Lakeville ownership actually went to that planning committee to support us in wanting to improve our ordinance to reach 2021 conditional Lakeville Lake. There's a group of people that also would just rather forget it and just go with Eagle, E-G-L-E, I'd call it Eagle, probably not. I don't want to forget it. I think the majority want an ordinance that is more modern for the way the kids and everybody works. If we need to go to Eagle, I guess what we'll have to do. So I don't understand why nobody's responding to my letters. Did I do it wrong? Am I supposed to send it through Bruce and then send it over? I have no idea. Then the last thing, two things, sorry. I also found out from someone else that has been doing a lot of research and sending some emails out that there's a Section 2, Chapter 7 of the Handbook of Municipal Officials. That's why I wrote it down, because I didn't memorize it. An ordinance must advance a public purpose, not the interest of a person, or ruled by an absolute authority, or tyrannical, I don't know if I said it right, exercise of a power of a few over the many, or majority. So you were here last month, and there was a majority of people saying, hey, I want to improve my ordinance. So I can't understand a minority of a few that think we're beautiful and we don't want to be like Lake Orion is not listening to the majority. And then the second thing I researched, because I do like money and I do pay my taxes, is how are you paying for this lawyer that goes to the court and the judge is telling this lawyer, what are you guys, I don't know if they use the word silly or stupid, but what are you doing spending all your money when you could just improve your ordinance? So my last question on this one is, who approved the spending for that lawyer to go to court all the time and spend our taxpaying money? So I think I did my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
I am. I'm Kathy Bartlett. I think it's really wonderful what you guys are doing with the cemetery. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort. I wish that you would just please take a few of your minutes of your time to look at what the dock people are offering. It's not outrageous, it's just updating the ordinance to meet the needs of today's boating, swimming, safety. Safety is a huge part of it. And I think you guys, every board member, not just Bruce, every board member needs to look at the ordinance, ask what we're doing. This lawyer, Listman, who represents Davis, not Davis, he's not going, Listman. He's taken these people to court 2 and 3 times and we're paying him every time. That money would easily pay to update your website, a lot of the things you guys would like to do in the township. We had a wonderful community and we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we'll move on. Any Addison Township board reports? Anybody on any of the boards have anything they'd like to add? Okay, any legal reports, communications?
Yes, I received one communication. The communication is from Eileen Galbraith. She is on with the LIC, and it is about the dock ordinance. This is available for public, if they wanted to see the letter.
Okay. We'll come to the supervisor's report. I think Pauline and I've contacted Oxford Township about the gypsy moths, and we're hoping we have somebody now that can help us with the survey so that we can train our people.
I missed your phone call, we're playing phone tag, and tomorrow I'm going to Lapeer in hopes I hook up somebody there as well.
But what we want to do is get a survey done and go out and have people go out and find the nests. This is the time you have to find the nest, and we have to spray in May. So if we don't know where the gypsy moths are, then we don't know where to spray. We've been trying, Pauline has been working on this. We can't get anybody to train us. Everybody is, what would you say, filled up, okay? Well, finally, we believe we found someone who will train our volunteers, and we have volunteers. And it's a very easy thing once they teach us what to look for. I did talk with Mike Spiz, our county commissioner. They did put $250,000 of county money on the table, and it's a matching fund. I think after the survey, if we do find that we do have overabundance of gypsy moth, I think the township should put some money in and get a matching fund. I talked to Mike, and he said that so far, out of the $250,000, there's only maybe 4 or 5 communities that are even interested in any of the matching. So we should, he said he would earmark some money for us. And I said, well, try to earmark at least maybe $50,000, and we'll see if we need that or not. He said he would do that. Okay, so it's just that he'll earmark it because there aren't that many communities that are going to do this. So, and I did talk with Jack Curtis, supervisor at Oxford. We have that corridor along Bar Road that is just, they're horrendous. They're down all the way down to Drainer and around the Indian Lake area and all the way up. And now they've come a little farther north also. So I told them that the 2 of us will coordinate and we'll see if we can get the survey in that whole area. That was the area that everybody was complaining about, that they actually destroyed all the foliage there. And if you, we've already learned that if the foliage is eaten up one year, the leaves do come back. And if you notice those trees, the leaves did come back. But if they do it twice, the probability of the trees coming back diminish greatly, that they'll die. So we got to find out, first of all, whether or not, after all this rain we've had, whether we're going to have a bunch of these gypsy moths, or are they gone? Because it's a natural thing out of the earth that when this fungi comes out, it kills the nest. So we have to get the survey done. So anyways, I think that it's in our best interest to do that, and we'll coordinate with the volunteers to find out if we haven't had it again this year. We had our last chloriding on the roads. Our roads were horrendous, but as you know, the rain never quit. And so it was useless to go out there and make a mud pile. So they did hold off, but as soon as it dried a little bit, they did go out, and our roads are much improved. But as you know, it did rain again a little bit, so we do have some issues. But they will grade again before the winter, but at least we did get our last chloride again. And Ray Road is going to be all re-gravelled from Lake George all the way to the Oxford Township line. That will be all new gravel, part of the tri-party system that we use, where the county pays 1/3 and the road commission pays 1/3 and we pay 1/3. So that's going to be done this week, supposedly. I wanted to bring up one thing about Fire Station 2, the renovation here. The chief has talked to me about Fire Station 2 here. It was built in 1987, and it was a pole barn type construction. The department's needs have changed now. They'd like to keep someone here overnight. You know, the other facility, the other Station 1 has facilities to have someone sleep there, a couple people sleep there, okay? Because of the mandates, okay, by the county, we have to have more personnel now. That's our issue. And these advanced life support people, we have to have 2 when the ambulance leaves. And this enables us also to have a better coverage here for other issues. So what he's looking for is updating the Fire Station 2 here. He says, number 1, the bay doors need replacing. The electrical system is completely outdated, and it needs to be brought up to specs. The kitchen, the bathroom, the training area needs to be updated to accommodate future use, because we do have to be able to provide them a place to sleep there. And he says he has no more purchases on capital funds for the next probably 12 years, major purchases for equipment. So he has the money to put into the fire hall. And he'd like to update the exterior, maybe to match the township's exteriors. And he would like to just let everybody know that he has the money for that, and he would like us to think about that. So I'm just bringing that up so that we can think about it. And he'd like to put some columns and a few things that match the township and bring it, anyways, up to coincide with our township hall here. The last thing is I did meet with the governor today, and we talked about the rescue money. I see that Lori put out that we did get half of it now, so we have $300 and some thousand that came in. We don't know what we can use it for now, and once again, that's a fluid thing. So we're waiting to hear what the governor has to say. I think that and the feds are also, I think, going to add some things. Like I've said, so far it's internet, parks, or we can put a little electronic filters in here in the office here to get rid of the germs or whatever. Those are the only things that we qualify for right now. So I think that we don't have to spend this money for a couple of years anyhow. So I think we should just hold off and keep our thinking hats on and try to see if they change the goalpost so that we can put it into something else. Other than that, I'm looking for an adjournment. I can make a motion.
I'll make that motion, we adjourn.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next meeting, November 15th, I think that's a holiday. Not open the day for the hearing.
Yeah.
Probably not open to people here, so. 6 o'clock, November 15th, the next regular meeting.